Your money belongs to us. Those 4 words sat on the table between us like a dead bird. The turkey was still steaming. The gravy was still warm. My daughter Olivia's face was flushed with the confidence of someone who had rehearsed this moment. Her husband Mark sat beside her, his jaw tight, his eyes on me like I was a problem to be solved. I set down my fork. The clink against the china sounded louder than it should have. The children stopped squirming. Emma's little hand froze halfway to the rolls. My son Michael looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years.
Fear.
Not for me.
Of me.
Of what I might do. Your money belongs to us, Olivia repeated. You're old. You're alone. What are you going to do with it? Travel. You never travel. Buy things. You never buy things. You sit in that condo and watch TV and wait for us to visit. That's your life. That's all it is. I felt the heat rise from my chest into my throat. My hands were steady. That surprised me. 20 years of writing checks. 15 years of babysitting. 10 years of co-signing. 5 years of being told I was fragile. 3 years of being treated like a child. All of it crystallized into a single, clear moment. I stood up. The chair scraped back against the hardwood floor. Emma started crying. Olivia's mouth opened. Mark leaned forward like he was about to grab me. Mom.
Sit down.
We're not done. But I was done. I was done with the family trust papers Mark had drawn up. I was done with the PowerPoint presentation he'd emailed me last week. I was done with being a wallet with a pulse that I walked past them. Through the dining room. Past my grandmother's china cabinet. Past the family photos on the wall. My wedding photo. My husband's funeral photo. My grandchildren's school portraits. All of it paid for by me. All of it taken for granted. Mom, what are you doing? Olivia's voice cracked. Not with concern. With control slipping. I walked to the pantry. I pulled out my small duffel bag. The one I'd packed 3 years ago after my husband died. I'd never known why I packed it. I just had a feeling. Now I knew. I grabbed my keys. I put on my coat. The same coat I'd worn for 8 years. The same coat Olivia told me to replace because it made me look poor. I didn't replace it. I liked it. It was mine. Olivia appeared in the kitchen doorway. Mark behind her. Michael behind him. Rachel holding Emma. The twins, Jack and Sam, peeking from the living room. All of them watching me. All of them waiting. Mom, you're having a moment. We get it. Just sit down. We'll talk about this tomorrow. There won't be a tomorrow, I said. Not for this conversation. Not for this dinner. Not for this family. She blinked. What? I'm leaving. She laughed. That laugh. The one that said don't be dramatic. Leaving where you don't even know how to pump gas. Dad always did it. Then Mark did it. You can't just. I can pump gas, Olivia. I lived 42 years before I met your father. I pumped gas. I changed tires. I balanced a checkbook. I earned a paycheck. I raised 2 children. I buried a husband. I survived your father's cancer, your grandmother's dementia, and your entire college education without a single complaint. I walked toward the front door. Michael moved aside. He looked at me with wet eyes. He didn't stop me. He didn't try. He just let me pass. Rachel reached out. Mom, please. It's Thanksgiving. The children are better off seeing their grandmother stand up for herself than seeing her roll over. I said. I opened the door. The cold hit me. The sky was dark. The wind smelled like snow. I walked to my car. My Subaru Outback. 10 years old. 112,000 miles. Paid off. Mine. I threw the bag in the back seat. I got in. I started the engine. The front door opened. Olivia ran out.
No coat. No shoes.
Just her Thanksgiving dress and her fury. Mom, get back inside. You're humiliating me. You're humiliating yourself. The neighbors are watching. I rolled down the window. Happy Thanksgiving, Olivia. I put the car in drive and pulled out of the driveway. I didn't look back. I didn't honk. I didn't wave. I just drove. The streetlights flickered past. The houses of my neighborhood. The subdivision I helped pay for. The corner where Olivia learned to ride a bike. The park where Michael scraped his knee. The church where I married my husband. all of it fading in my rearview mirror. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. The phone in my bag started buzzing. I knew it was Olivia. I let it buzz. It stopped. It started again. I turned it off. Not silent. Off. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to be called back. That I got on I-90 West. I didn't plan it. The road just appeared and I took it.
West.
Always west. Towards something I couldn't name. Away from everything I knew, that my hands were still shaking on the wheel. I gripped tighter. I focused on the white line. I focused on breathing.
In, out, in, out.
I thought about the mortgage I co-signed. 30 years. I'd paid it down to 15. Olivia and Mark lived in that house. 4 bedrooms. 3 bathrooms. A finished basement. A deck with a grill I bought. All of it sat on payments I made. That I thought about Mark's business. Landscaping. He'd gone under 3 years ago. The bank was ready to foreclose. I wrote him a check for $42,000. He called it a loan. We never signed anything. We never talked about repayment. He never mentioned it again. I thought about the private school. Emma was in 1st grade. $12,000 a year. I paid it. Every semester. I thought about the piano lessons. The summer camp. The Disney World trips. The new roof. The new furnace. The new car. I was an ATM. Not a mother. Not a grandmother. Not a widow. Just a machine. And when the machine stopped dispensing cash, the machine was a problem. I drove for an hour. Then, too. The road blurred. The speed limit said 65. I went 70. The engine hummed. The heaters worked. The car felt like a cocoon. A little shell moving through the dark. I passed a sign. Rest area. 2 miles. My gas gauge was at half. I had enough. But my bladder said otherwise. I pulled off. The rest area was empty. A few trucks.
Sedan.
The bathrooms open. The vending machines glowing. I parked. I sat for a moment. I let myself breathe. I looked in the rearview mirror. My face looked different. Older. Harder. But not sad. Not tired. Just different. Like I was looking at someone I hadn't met yet. I got out.
The cold hit me again.
I walked to the bathroom. It was clean. A little smelly. But clean enough. I washed my hands. I looked at the mirror. The fluorescent lights made me look pale. My hair was a mess. My eyes were red. I looked like a woman who had walked out of her own life. I bought a coffee from the vending machine. It was terrible.
Stale. Weak.
But it was hot. I held the cup and stared at the highway cars passed. Headlights streaming past. Each one full of people. Families. Couples. Truckers. Strangers. All of them going somewhere. All of them with their own stories. I was one of them now. A stranger on a road. A woman with no destination. That I could have turned back. I could have turned off at the next exit and gone home. Apologized. Signed the papers. Saved Thanksgiving. Gone back to being the wallet. But I didn't want to. That surprised me. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to see Olivia's smug face. I didn't want to hear Mark's legal jargon. I didn't want to sit at that table and pretend everything was fine, because it wasn't fine. It hadn't been fine for a long time. I drove on. Past the rest area. Past the next exit. Past everything familiar. I found a gas station an hour later. A small one. It had a single pump and an old man behind the counter. I pulled up. I got out. I pumped the gas myself. My hands remembered. My hands were smarter than I gave them credit for. The old man came to the door. "You need help, miss." "I'm fine," I said. "Thank you." He nodded. He watched me. Not suspicious. Curious. An old woman alone at midnight on Thanksgiving. That wasn't usual.
He didn't ask.
He just watched that I finished pumping. I went inside. I paid cash. I bought a bag of trail mix. A bottle of water. A map. I hadn't used a map in years. But I didn't want to turn my phone on. I didn't want anyone finding me. I didn't want to be found. "Where are you heading?" he asked. "West." Long drive for a woman alone. I looked at him. He was old. Maybe 70. His hands were rough. His eyes were kind. He wasn't judging. He was asking, I'm okay. I said, I know you are. I can see it. You've got that look. The one that says you've been pushed too far. I didn't say anything. I just paid and left the map spread across my passenger seat. I traced the highway. 90 west. Through New York. Through Pennsylvania. Through Ohio. I could keep going. I could go to Chicago, Denver, California. I could drive to the ocean. That's what I decided. The ocean. I wanted to see the ocean. I wanted to stand on the edge of something bigger than my daughter's expectations. I wanted to feel sand. I wanted to hear waves. I'd never been to California. My husband always wanted to go. We never did. There was always work, always the kids, always bills, always something more important than the ocean. Not anymore. I drove through the night. The roads were empty. The snow started to fall around midnight. Light snow. Flakes that danced in the headlights. I slowed down. I didn't want to crash.
I didn't want to die.
I wanted to make it to the ocean. The snow stopped after an hour. The moon came out, full and bright. I could see fields stretching to the horizon. Farms. Silos. Barns. America at night. I'd never seen it before. Not like this. Not alone. I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Not the kind that comes from having money. The kind that comes from having nothing to lose, because I had nothing. I had no property in my own name. The condo was in a trust Olivia controlled. The car was in my name, but Mywell gave it to Michael. My savings were my own. Olivia didn't have access to them. Not yet. But they were on the table. She'd made that clear, that I had enough. Enough to disappear for a while. Enough to find myself. Maybe that's what I was doing. Maybe I was looking for the woman I used to be. At 2 a.m., I pulled into a motel. A cheap one. A sign that said Motel 6. A neon light flickered. I parked. I walked to the office. A woman in her 70s looked up from her book. Need a room? Yes. Just for tonight.
$50. Cash.
I paid. She gave me a key. Room 14. I walked to the room. It was small.
Clean. A bed.
A TV. A shower. It smelled like bleach and old cigarette smoke. It was perfect that I sat on the bed. I didn't sleep. I just sat. I thought about the dinner I'd left. The faces around the table. Olivia's demand. Mark's silence. Michael's worry. Rachel's kindness. The children's confusion. I thought about what Olivia said. Your money belongs to us. The audacity of it. The entitlement. She didn't say, Mom, we need your help. She didn't say, we're struggling, can you support us? She said, your money belongs to us.
Like it was law.
Like it was destiny. Like I had no right to it. That I thought about my husband, Arthur.
He would have stood up for me.
He would have slammed his fist on the table. He would have told Olivia exactly what she could do with her trust fund papers. He would have put her in her place. But Arthur was gone. 6 years gone. And without him, I'd forgotten how to fight. I'd let myself be small. I'd let myself be quiet. I'd let myself be managed. I'd told myself it was easier that way. Fewer fights. Less drama. But it wasn't easier. It was exhausting. Dying by 1,000 cuts. That I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought the tears would come. But they didn't. I was too angry.
Too determined.
The tears would wait. They always do. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. I should sleep. I had a long drive ahead. But my mind wouldn't stop. It replayed every check I'd written. Every time I said yes when I meant no. Every time I gave when I should have kept. Every time I smiled when I should have screamed. I wasn't that woman anymore. I'd left her at the dinner table. I'd walked out and left her there, sitting in that chair, smiling politely, nodding obediently. She was dead. I was born. I lay down. I closed my eyes. I listened to the heater hum. I listened to my own heartbeat. Steady. Strong. At 6 a.m., I woke up. I hadn't meant to sleep, but I had. 3 hours. Enough. I showered. The water was hot. The cheap soap smelled like lemon. I washed my hair. I dressed in the same clothes. I packed my bag. I left. The sun was rising. The sky was orange and pink. I bought coffee in the lobby. The woman from last night was there. Her cat was on the counter. She looked at me. Sleep okay? Yes. Thank you. You heading far, California? She raised an eyebrow. That's a long way. I've got time. She nodded. She didn't ask more. She just said, be safe. The roads get icy past Erie. Thank you. I got in my car. I drove. The sun was in my eyes. I put on sunglasses. I kept driving. I passed into Pennsylvania. I passed through Erie. I kept going. My phone was still off. I didn't know what messages were waiting. I didn't care. I had nothing to say to Olivia. Nothing that would change anything. She would never understand. She would never see me as anything but a source of money. She would never respect me, but I didn't need her respect. I needed my own, and I was starting to get it back. That I thought about Michael. He would be worried. He would call. He would leave messages. I felt bad for that. He hadn't done anything wrong. He hadn't demanded anything. He just loved me. Quietly. Constantly. I would call him. Eventually.
But not yet.
I needed to find myself first. I needed to become someone worth calling. The road stretched ahead. Miles of concrete and sky. I turned on the radio. A country station. A woman singing about leaving. About driving. About never looking back. I smiled. I sang along. I couldn't carry a tune. I didn't care that I drove through the morning. The scenery changed. The flat fields turned into hills. The hills turned into mountains. The mountains turned into valleys. I was in Ohio by noon. I stopped at a diner. The waitress was young. She had a tattoo on her arm. She smiled like she meant it. What can I get you? Pancakes.
Eggs. Bacon.
And a lot of coffee. She laughed. Long night, long life. She nodded. She didn't need more. She brought the food. I ate like I hadn't eaten in days. Maybe I hadn't. I barely touched the turkey before I left. The pancakes were fluffy. The eggs were runny. The bacon was crispy. The coffee was endless. It was the best meal I'd had in years. Not because of the food.
Because of the freedom I paid.
I left a big tip. The waitress smiled. Safe travels. Thank you. I will. I drove again. West through Ohio. Toward Indiana. Toward the unknown. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a timeline. I just had a car and a credit card and a burning desire to never be a wallet again. At the Indiana border, I stopped at a rest stop. I used the bathroom. I bought a souvenir.
A keychain.
Ironic. I didn't need a keychain. I didn't need anything.
But I bought it anyway.
Because I wanted it. Because I hadn't bought myself anything in years without guilt. I looked at the keychain. It said Indiana. I laughed. A keychain. Of all the things I could buy. I put it on my key ring. It clinked next to my house keys. My house keys. The condo I'd probably never live in again.
I didn't know what I would do about that.
The condo was in a trust. Olivia was the trustee. She could sell it. She could rent it. She could do whatever she wanted. But it was my name on the deed. And I didn't sign anything. That I realized something. I had more power than I thought. The condo was mine. The savings were mine. The car was mine. Olivia had no legal authority over any of it. Not yet. The papers she wanted me to sign would give her that authority. But I hadn't signed them. I hadn't signed anything. I felt a smile spread across my face. Not a happy smile. A strategic one. A smile that said, you don't know what you just started. I drove on. I thought about the lawyer. I had a lawyer. My husband's brother. He was retired. But he still knew things. I could call him. I could make changes. I could protect myself. I didn't want to punish Olivia. I didn't want to be cruel. I just wanted to be free.
To be respected. To be seen.
And if she couldn't see me, I'd remove myself from her view. I drove until the sun started to set. I found another motel. A nicer one. A Holiday Inn. I had the money. I could afford it. I checked in. I took a shower. I ordered room service. A burger.
Fries.
A milkshake. Comfort food. Food for a woman who is beginning to remember herself. I turned on the TV.
News.
I didn't want to watch. I turned it off. I lay on the bed. I stared at the ceiling. I felt my body relax for the first time in years. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know where I would end up. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was never going back to who I was before. Never again. The phone stayed off for 3 full days. I drove through Ohio, through Indiana, through Illinois. The flat farmland stretched in every direction. Cornfields, brown and dead for the winter. Grain silos like gray fingers pointing at the sky. Small towns with water towers and stoplights and empty main streets. I kept going. I didn't check my messages. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even think about Olivia. Not really. She was there, in the back of my mind. A dull ache I refused to touch. But I pushed her down. I focused on the road. The road was honest. The road didn't want anything from me done on the second day. I stopped at a diner in a town I couldn't pronounce. The waitress was a young woman with tired eyes and a baby bump. She refilled my coffee 4 times without asking. She didn't make small talk. She just let me sit. I left her a 20 on an $8 bill. She looked at it, then at me. You sure, positive? She smiled. A real smile. The first real smile I'd seen since I walked out of Olivia's house.
It made me feel something.
Not happiness. Something quieter. Something like worth. I drove another 100 miles. The landscape started to change. The flat cornfields gave way to rolling hills. The hills gave way to trees.
Oak.
Maple.
Pine.
I passed a sign that said, "Welcome to Iowa." I didn't stop. I kept going. I was running on adrenaline and bad coffee. My body was tired. My eyes were heavy. But my mind was clear. Clearer than it had been in years. I started to remember things I'd forgotten. Things I'd buried. I remembered the summer I was 17. I'd lied to my parents and driven to the beach with a boy named Eddie. We'd spent the day in the water. We'd eaten hot dogs from a cart. We'd kissed in the back of his truck. I'd felt so free. So unburdened. That girl had disappeared somewhere. She'd gotten married. She'd had kids. She'd become responsible. She'd become a wallet. I pulled over at a rest stop. I sat in the car and watched the sun set over the prairie. The sky was purple and orange. The clouds were streaked like paint. I thought about my husband, Arthur. He would have loved this. He always talked about taking a road trip. Always said, "We'll do it when the kids are older." But the kids got older, and then there were grandkids, and then the cancer came, and then he was gone. I hadn't taken a single day for myself since he died. Not one. I'd filled the time with Olivia's problems and Michael's needs, and the grandchildren's schedules. I'd made myself busy so I wouldn't have to feel the empty space next to me in bed. I'd poured myself into everyone else until there was nothing left. Now I was empty, and that was the first step. You have to be empty before you can fill yourself up again. I slept in the car that night. It wasn't comfortable. My back ached. My neck was stiff. But I didn't want a motel. I didn't want to be inside 4 walls. I wanted the sky. I wanted the open. I wanted to feel small. I woke at dawn. The sun was just breaking over the horizon. The sky was pink. The fields were silver with frost. I started the car and drove. I passed a sign for a national park. Badlands National Park. South Dakota. I'd never been. I turned off the highway. The road was narrow. 2 lanes. No guardrails. The landscape was like nothing I'd ever seen. Buttes and spires. Layers of rock stacked like a cake. Brown and red and ochre. The road cut through it like a knife. I parked at a scenic overlook. I got out. The wind hit me. It was cold. Sharp. It tasted like dry grass and stone. I walked to the edge of the cliff. The valley stretched below me. Miles and miles of nothing but earth and sky. I stood there for a long time. I thought about the dinner table. I thought about Olivia's face. I thought about the trust fund papers and the mortgage and the private school tuition. All of it felt very far away, like it belonged to someone else, like it belonged to the woman I used to be. I felt something crack open inside me, a small thing, like a seed. I started to cry. Not the kind of crying I'd done when Arthur died. That was a deep, ocean kind of grief. This was different. This was relief. I stayed at the park for hours. I walked the trails. I took photos with my flip phone. I didn't send them to anyone. I took them for myself. I drove again.
West.
Always west. The road signs shifted. Sioux Falls. Rapid City. Sturgis. I passed through Black Hills National Forest. I saw Mount Rushmore from a distance. I didn't stop. I didn't need to see presidents carved in stone. I needed to see myself. At dusk, I found a small motel. Family-owned. A woman named Betty ran the front desk. She was in her 60s. She had short gray hair and a voice like gravel. One night. Yes, please. $35. Breakfast included. It's not fancy. Toast and eggs, but the eggs are real. That sounds perfect. I paid. She gave me the key. Room 9. I walked to the room. It was clean. A single bed. A quilt with a pattern that looked handmade. A lamp with a yellow shade. A small TV with rabbit ears. I sat on the edge of the bed. I turned on my phone. It had been 4 days. The screen lit up. Notifications flooded in. 27 missed calls. 43 text messages. A voicemail from Michael. 2 from Rachel. The rest from Olivia. I listened to Michael's voicemail first. Mom. It's Michael. I need to know you're okay. Olivia is losing her mind. Mark is calling lawyers. The kids are asking about you. I told them you had to go somewhere. I didn't know what else to say.
Please call me.
Or text me. Just let me know you're breathing. His voice cracked at the end. I felt a pang of guilt. Michael hadn't done anything wrong. He'd only ever loved me. He'd never asked for money. He'd never treated me like a bank. He'd just been my son. Quiet. Faithful.
Good.
I called him. He answered on the first ring. Mom, is that you? It's me, honey. Mom. Oh my God. Where are you? Are you okay? I've been sick with worry. I'm okay, Michael.
I'm okay.
I'm in South Dakota. South Dakota? What the hell are you doing in South Dakota? I'm driving west. To the ocean. I needed to get away. I needed to think. Think about what? About everything. About my life. About Olivia. About what I'm going to do. He was quiet for a moment. I heard him breathing. Then he said, Mom, I'm sorry. I should have said something at the table. I should have defended you. I just froze. I never thought she'd say that. I never thought she'd. Michael, stop. You didn't do anything wrong. You were the only one in that room who didn't want something for me. That meant everything. He was quiet again. I could hear him crying. I felt my own eyes sting. I'm coming to you, he said. Tell me where you are. I'll get in the car and... No, Michael. I need to do this alone. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not being someone's mother or someone's grandmother or someone's ATM. You're not an ATM. You were never. Michael, look at the last 15 years. Look at the checks. Look at the cosigns. Look at the tuition. Look at the down payments. Look at everything I gave. Did I ever say no? He was quiet. Did I ever say no? I asked again. No, he said quietly. You never said no. Because I was afraid. Afraid you'd stop loving me. Afraid I'd lose my family. Afraid I'd be alone. And look what it got me. A daughter who thinks she owns me. A son who can't speak up. A family that sees me as a service. I'm not doing that anymore. Mom, I don't think you're a service. I know, honey. I know. I'm not talking about you. You're the one good thing I did right. But I need to do this. For me. Do you understand? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I understand. But please call me. Every day. Just a text. Just to let me know you're alive. I can do that. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Michael. We hung up. I lay back on the bed. The ceiling was yellowed with age. The lamp flickered. The heater hummed. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace that I didn't call Olivia. I didn't listen to her voicemails. I knew what they would say. Anger.
Blame. Demands.
She was probably furious. She was probably telling everyone I was having a breakdown. She was probably rewriting the story, so she was the victim. Let her. I didn't care anymore. That I woke the next morning and made the bed. I put on my clothes. I brushed my teeth in the tiny bathroom. The mirror showed me a woman I was starting to like. Not because she was pretty. Not because she was young. Because she had a spine. That I walked to the front office. Betty was there. She had a pot of coffee and a plate of toast. Sit down, honey. You look like you need breakfast. I sat. She slid a plate across the counter. Butter and jam on the side. A mug of coffee.
Black.
Strong. Where you heading? She asked. California. That's a long drive. I've got time. She nodded. She leaned on the counter. I drove across country once. After my husband left. I was 38. 2 kids. No money. I took the kids and drove from Pennsylvania to Oregon. Had to beg for gas money in Nebraska. What happened? She smiled. I made it. Opened this motel 30 years ago. Best thing I ever did. Those kids grew up strong. Never asked me for a dime. They saw me fight. They learned how to fight too. I ate my toast.
It was dry.
The butter didn't melt. It was the best toast I'd ever had. That I said goodbye to Betty. She gave me a bottle of water for the road. I drove. Through Wyoming. The mountains rose up on both sides. Snow-capped peaks. Pines thick as a wall. The roads were winding. The air was thin. I stopped in a town called Buffalo. I bought gas. I bought a sweatshirt. It was too big. I wore it anyway. That I crossed into Montana. The sky was huge. The biggest sky I'd ever seen. The clouds stretched like cotton balls. The road stretched like a ribbon. I turned off the radio. I listened to the wind. At a rest stop, I saw a family having a picnic. A mother, a father, 3 kids. They were laughing. They were eating sandwiches. The kids were throwing a football. The mother was taking pictures. I watched them for a while. I didn't feel sad. I felt something else. Recognition. That was me 30 years ago. That was me before I forgot myself. That I drove on. I thought about Olivia. I tried to understand where she came from. How she got so entitled. Was it me? Did I spoil her? Did I give her too much? Did I teach her that love was transactional? Did I teach her that saying yes was the same as saying I love you? I didn't know. And I realized I didn't need to. It didn't matter how she became who she was. What mattered was who I was going to become. I stopped in a small town in Idaho. The name was Hope. I laughed when I saw the sign. Hope. I needed that. I needed to believe that things could get better. That I could get better. That I parked at a diner. I went inside. A waitress in her 50s. She had dyed blonde hair and a diamond ring. She was smiling at everyone. She asked my name. I told her. I'm Margaret, she said. What brings you to Hope? I'm driving west. On your own, yes. She nodded slowly. Good for you. Most women never get out. Most women just stay. Stay where? Stay where they're not wanted. Stay where they're not respected. Stay because they're afraid to leave. It takes guts to walk out. I felt a surge of something. Pride, maybe. Thank you, I said. She gave me a club sandwich. It was piled high with bacon and turkey and lettuce. It came with fries and a pickle. I ate the whole thing. I found another motel that night.
A chain.
Hilton. I had the money. I could afford it. I needed a real shower. I needed a soft bed. I checked in. I took a long shower. I washed my hair twice. I put on clean clothes. I lay on the bed and watched TV. A cooking show. I hadn't cooked in years. Olivia always insisted on hosting. She said my kitchen was too small. She said my food was too old-fashioned. She said that I fell asleep watching a man make a pie. That I woke the next morning and called Michael. He answered right away.
Mom.
You okay?
Fine.
I'm in Idaho. How are things there? He was quiet. I could feel him trying to decide what to say. Olivia she's not good. She's been calling everyone. She's been saying you had a breakdown. She's telling people you've lost your mind. Let her. What? Let her. She can say whatever she wants. I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to argue with her. I'm just going to live my life. Mom, she's telling people you're not capable. She's trying to get power of attorney. I felt cold.
What?
Mark called a lawyer. He wants to file for guardianship. He's saying you're not mentally fit. He wants control of your finances. I gripped the phone. My knuckles went white.
He can't do that.
I'm not incapacitated. I'm driving across the country.
I'm perfectly capable.
I know that, but he's putting things in motion. If a judge signs off, he won't. There's no evidence. I haven't been to a doctor. I haven't been diagnosed with anything.
I'm functioning perfectly.
I know. I'm just telling you. He's making moves. I stood up. I paced the room. My hands were shaking. Not with fear. With anger. This was the next step. If Olivia couldn't get my money by asking, she'd get it by force. She'd paint me as a crazy old woman. She'd take everything. Michael, I need you to do something for me. Anything. I need you to find a lawyer. Someone in your town. Someone good. I need you to get a restraining order. I need you to stop them from doing anything until I get back. Get back from where, Mom? Where are you going? I'm going to California. And then I'm coming home. But I'm not coming back as the woman who left. I'm coming back different. And I need you to hold the line until I get there. He was quiet. Then he said, I'll do it. I'll find a lawyer. I'll file whatever we need to file. But Mom, please come back soon. They're circling. They're already talking about selling the condo. I'm not going to let them. I'm going to fix this. I just need time. How much time? I don't know. But I'll call you every day. I promise. We hung up. I sat on the edge of the bed. I felt the weight of everything. The condo. The savings. The car. My entire life. Olivia was trying to take it. Mark was trying to take it. They were telling themselves they were doing the right thing. They were telling themselves I was sick. That I needed help. I wasn't sick. I was angry. And anger was the only thing that had ever made me brave. That I drove faster that day. The mountains gave way to high desert. The high desert gave way to pine forests. I crossed the border into Oregon. The trees were towering. The air was crisp. I drove through the Columbia River Gorge. The waterfalls were frozen. The cliffs were jagged. The river was wide and gray. That I stopped at a viewpoint. I looked out over the river. I thought about Olivia. I thought about the trust papers. I thought about the guardianship. I thought about my life being taken away from me piece by piece. And then I thought about what I would do about it. I'd fight. I'd find a lawyer of my own. I'd prove I was capable. I'd show up at court with my head held high. I'd make them look at me and see someone who wasn't going to be pushed over. But first I needed the ocean. That I drove to the coast. I followed the signs. Highway 101. The Pacific Coast Highway. The road wound along the edge of the continent. The cliffs dropped into the sea. The waves crashed against the rocks. The smell of salt filled the car. I parked at a beach. I got out. I took my shoes off. I walked onto the sand. It was cold. The sand was coarse. The water was gray and churning. I stood at the water's edge. The waves washed over my feet. The water was freezing. I didn't flinch. I just stood there. I let the water cover my toes. I let it pull away. I looked at the horizon. It was endless. Nothing but water and sky. No houses. No cars. No people. Just ocean. Just infinity. I started to cry. Not the quiet tears of relief. These were loud, ugly sobs. I cried for Arthur. I cried for the girl I used to be. I cried for the children I'd raised who didn't know me. I cried for the years I'd given away. I cried for the money I'd wasted on people who only saw a wallet. I cried until my throat was raw. I cried until I couldn't breathe. And then I stopped. I took a breath. I wiped my face. I looked at the ocean again. And I said out loud, I'm still here. I was still here. I was alive. I had my health. I had my mind. I had my car, and my credit card, and a pocket full of cash. I had everything I needed to start over. I walked back to the car. I sat in the driver's seat. I looked at my phone. No messages from Olivia. But a new one from Michael. Lawyer is working on it. Don't worry. Just stay safe. I wrote back. I'm at the ocean. I'm coming home soon. But I'm not coming back the same. I put the phone down. I started the car. I drove into the small beach town. I found a restaurant. I ordered clam chowder and a glass of wine. I sat by the window and watched the waves. Tomorrow, I'd start planning. Tomorrow, I'd fight back. But tonight, I'd sit.
I'd rest.
I'd let myself be. Because I was still here. And I wasn't done yet. The ocean stayed with me for 3 days. I found a small rental cabin on the Oregon coast, perched on a cliff above the Pacific. The owner was an old woman named Irene who had silver hair and a husky voice from decades of smoking. She rented it to me cheap because it was November and no one came to the coast in November. Storm season, she said, handing me the key. You'll hear the waves all night. Some people find it scary. I find it honest. I liked her immediately. I paid for a week. I didn't know if I'd stay that long, but I wanted the option. I wanted to feel like I had choices again, that the cabin was small. 1 room.
A bed.
A kitchenette. A wood stove. A window that faced the ocean. I spent the first day just sitting in front of that window, watching the waves crash, watching the gulls circle, watching the fog roll in and out. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't listen to music. I just watched. On the second day, I called Michael. He answered right away. Mom. How are you? Are you safe? Where are you? I'm in Oregon. I found a cabin by the ocean. I'm staying for a few days. A cabin by yourself? Yes, Michael. By myself. And I'm fine. I'm better than fine. I'm thinking. Thinking about what? About how I'm going to handle Olivia. About how I'm going to handle Mark. About how I'm going to get my life back. There was a long pause. Then he said, Mom, Olivia filed a petition.
For guardianship.
She filed it yesterday. I felt my stomach drop. What? She went to the court. She filed papers. She's saying you're a danger to yourself. She's saying you're mentally incapacitated. She's saying you're wandering around a country with no sense of where you are. Is that what she said? Not in those exact words, but close. She said you're disoriented, that you're not taking care of yourself, that you're making irrational decisions. Like driving across the country like that, and like not answering her calls, and like leaving in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner. She's using all of it against you, Mom. I walked to the window. The ocean was gray. The waves were rough. The sky was low and heavy. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something. Not a cliff. Something bigger. Michael, listen to me. I'm not incapacitated. I'm not disoriented. I'm not a danger to myself. I'm a woman who finally said no. And I'm going to prove that. How? I'm going to come home. I'm going to get a lawyer. And I'm going to show that court that I'm perfectly capable of managing my own affairs. But I'm not going to do it today. Or tomorrow. I need a few more days. I need to be ready. Ready for what? Ready to face her. Ready to stand up to her. Ready to look her in the eye and tell her she can't have my money. She can't have my life. She can't have me. Michael was quiet. Then he said, I'll hold the line, Mom. I'll stall as long as I can. But you have to come back. Promise me you'll come back. I promise. We hung up. I stood at the window for a long time. I watched the waves. I watched the fog. I watched the gulls. I thought about Olivia. I thought about the petition. I thought about the judge who would read it. I thought about the story she was telling. The story of a confused old woman. The story of a mother who lost her mind. It was a lie. But it was a believable lie. Because that's what people expected. That's what everyone expected of a widow of a certain age. That she would decline. That she would become someone else's responsibility. That she would stop being a person and start being a problem. That I was not a problem. I was not going to be a problem. I was going to be the solution. I called my lawyer that afternoon. Arthur's brother, Harold. He was retired, but he kept his license active. He answered the phone like he was expecting me. Eleanor, I've been wondering when you'd call. Harold, I need your help. I know. Michael called me.
He told me everything.
I've already started working on a response. Can you stop the guardianship? I can slow it down. I can challenge the evidence. I can make her prove that you're incompetent. And she can't do that. Because you're not. She's saying I'm wandering around the country. Wandering is not a crime. Driving west is not a sign of incompetence. You're allowed to travel, Eleanor. You're allowed to take a trip. You're allowed to ignore phone calls. None of that makes you incapacitated. Then why did the court accept her petition? The court has to accept a petition if it's filed. It doesn't mean they'll approve it. But I need you to come back. I need you to appear in person. I need the judge to see you.
To hear you.
To look at you and know you're not what she's claiming. How long do I have? A week. Maybe 2. I can buy you time, but not much. I closed my eyes.
A week.
7 days. Then I had to face her. I'll be there, I said. But I'm not coming back broken. I'm coming back whole. That's exactly what I need you to be, Harold said. I hung up. I went outside. The wind was cold. The salt was sharp. I walked down the path to the beach. The sand was dark and wet. I walked to the water's edge. I let the waves wash over my feet. I looked at the horizon. I made a promise to myself. A promise I'd never made before. I promised I would never say yes when I wanted to say no. I promised I would never give away what I wanted to keep. I promised I would never let anyone make me feel small again. Not Olivia. Not Mark. Not anyone. I walked back to the cabin. I packed my bag. I paid Irene for the full week even though I was leaving early. She took the money and nodded. You're going back, she said. It wasn't a questioned yes. Good. The ocean will still be here when you're done. It's always here. It doesn't go anywhere. I drove east. Away from the coast. Away from the Pacific. Toward the sun. Toward the heart of the country. Toward the fight that was waiting for me. I drove through Oregon. Through Idaho. Through Montana. I didn't stop for sightseeing. I didn't stop for anything but gas and coffee. I drove 12 hours a day. I slept in motels. I ate gas station sandwiches. I listened to the radio. I thought about what I was going to say. I thought about the judge. I thought about the courtroom. I thought about Olivia sitting across from me. I thought about the look on her face when she realized I wasn't going to back down. I thought about Mark. About his smirking face. About his legal jargon. About his assumption that he could steamroll me because I was just a woman. Just a widow. Just a mother. I wasn't just anything anymore. On the 3rd day of driving, I hit a blizzard in Wyoming. The snow came down hard. The wind was fierce. The visibility was 0. I pulled off at a rest stop and waited it out. The parking lot filled with trucks and cars. Families huddled in their vehicles. I sat in my car and watched the snow pile up. An older man in a pickup truck parked next to me. He rolled down his window. You okay in there? I rolled down mine.
I've fine.
Just waiting for it to pass. Where you headed? Home. Where's home? Massachusetts. He whistled. That's a long way. You driving alone? Yes. Good for you. My wife won't drive past the grocery store. She says the highway scares her. Your wife is scared of the highway. She's scared of everything. She's been scared her whole life. She's never done anything. Not really. She just stayed small. I looked at him. He was old. Maybe 70. His hands were rough. His eyes were sad. He wasn't criticizing his wife. He was grieving her. Grieving the life she didn't live. Did she ever want to do something big? I asked. Every day. Every day she talked about going to the Grand Canyon. We never went. I always said next year. Next year never came. Now, she can't go. She's got bad hips. The doctors said she shouldn't travel. Could she have gone 10 years ago? Sure. But I was working. The kids were in school. We were busy. You know how it is.
Ida.
I've lived that. But I'm not living it anymore. He nodded. He didn't say anything else. He just rolled up his window and sat in his truck. The snow kept falling. I sat in my car. I thought about the Grand Canyon. I'd never been. I'd never seen it. I'd never even thought about it. I made a decision. On my way back, I would see it. Not because I had to. Not because anyone was asking me to. Because I wanted to. Because I was done waiting. The snow stopped after 4 hours. The plows cleared the roads. I drove on. I crossed into Nebraska. The flat farmland spread out again. The sky was clear. The stars came out. I found a motel and slept. The next morning, I called Michael. He answered immediately, "Mom, where are you?" "Nebraska. I'm about a day away. Maybe 2. I'm going to make a stop first. A stop where? The Grand Canyon." "Mom, you have to come back. The court. The court can wait one more day. I need to do this. I need to see it. I need to stand at the edge and look down and know that I did something for myself. Just one thing." He was quiet. Then he said, "Okay,
Take your day.
but after that you come straight home. Promise, promise." I drove south. I followed the signs. I crossed into Arizona. The landscape turned red. The rocks were dramatic. The sky was big and blue. I drove through Flagstaff. I drove through the National Forest. I drove toward the canyon that I parked at the visitor center. I walked to the rim. I looked out, that it was huge. Bigger than I'd imagined. Bigger than any photo had prepared me for. The colors were red and orange and purple. The depth was dizzying. The river was a silver thread at the bottom. The cliffs dropped in layers. The silence was enormous. I stood there for an hour. I didn't take pictures. I didn't buy a souvenir. I just stood. I let it wash over me. I let myself be small. Not the small of a woman who had been diminished. The small of a woman who had found her place in the world. I said a prayer. Not a church prayer. A private one. I thanked the universe for giving me this moment. I thanked the canyon for being patient. I thanked myself for finally showing up that I got back in the car. I drove east. Toward the sun. Toward the fight. Toward the rest of my life. The drive was long. The landscape changed again. Desert. Mountains.
Plains.
I drove through New Mexico. Through Texas. Through Oklahoma. I drove through the night. I didn't stop for motels. I didn't stop for food. I just drove. I wanted to get there. I wanted to face her. I wanted it to be over. On the 6th day, I crossed into Missouri. I called Michael. "I'm coming through. I'll be there tomorrow." "Tomorrow? That's quick. You've been driving nonstop." "I have. I couldn't stop. I needed to get there." "Mom, something happened. Something you need to know." I felt my chest tighten. "What happened?" "Mark posted something online. About you. He wrote this long post saying you'd abandoned the family. That you were lost. That you needed to be found. He made it sound like you were wandering the streets. It went viral. People are sharing it. Commenting on it. It's a mess. He posted about me. He posted about you. He said you had a breakdown. He said you were a danger to yourself. He's trying to win the court of public opinion, Mom. He's trying to make people believe you're crazy." I felt the anger rise. The same anger I felt at the dinner table. The same anger that made me walk out. The same anger that carried me across the country. Does Olivia know? She knows. She's the one who told him to do it. I heard them talking. I was at the house picking up some things. She said, "We need to build a case. We need people on our side." She's trying to paint you as a victim. A lost cause. So when she gets guardianship, no one will ask questions. "Get my things, Michael. Your sister and her husband have crossed a line." "I know, Mom. I know. That's why I'm telling you." I took a deep breath. I counted to 10. I remembered the canyon. I remembered the ocean. I remembered the woman I was becoming. The woman who fought back. "Michael, I'll be there tomorrow. And when I get there, I'm going to win." "Mom, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to show the world exactly who I am. And exactly who they are. Now go home. Stay safe. And don't tell them I'm coming." I hung up. I pulled into a rest stop. I sat in the car and stared at the road. Mark had gone public. He'd posted my business on the internet. He'd told strangers I was crazy. He'd tried to shame me into silence. It was the wrong move. I was not a woman who got shamed. Not anymore. I thought about what I would say. I thought about what I would post. I didn't have a social media account. I'd never wanted one. But I had a lawyer. And my lawyer could help me. I pulled out my phone and called Harold. "Eleanor. Where are you now?" "Missouri. I'll be back tomorrow." But something happened. Mark posted about me online. He's telling the world I've lost my mind. Harold was quiet for a moment. Then he said, that's defamation. If he's lying, that's defamation. And we can use it. We can show the court that he's not acting in good faith. He's trying to pressure you. He's trying to control the narrative. That's not how a concerned family member behaves. What should I do? Do nothing.
Don't respond.
Don't post anything. Don't engage with him. Let him keep talking. Let him hang himself with his own words. The more he says, the more evidence we have. And the guardianship, I'll file a motion to dismiss. I'll challenge the evidence. I'll bring you in and have you testify. We'll show them you're competent. We'll show them you're more than competent. We'll show them you're a woman who knows exactly what she wants. I smiled. Thank you, Harold. Don't thank me yet. We're not done. But Eleanor, I'm proud of you. I know Arthur would be proud of you too. That hit me. Arthur. He'd been gone so long. I'd missed him every day. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped living for him. I'd started living for everyone else. And now I was living for myself. I drove through the night. The road was empty. The stars were bright. I didn't feel tired. I felt powerful. I felt like I could keep going forever. I crossed into Pennsylvania at dawn. The sun was rising over the mountains. The sky was pink and orange. I stopped at a diner. I ordered eggs and bacon and toast. I ate slowly. I drank 3 cups of coffee. I watched the people around me. Families. Truckers. Businessmen. All of them living their lives. All of them with their own problems. I wasn't special. I wasn't unique. I was just a woman who'd finally had enough. And that was enough. I got back in the car. I drove the last few hours. The roads became familiar. I recognized the towns, the landmarks, the gas stations. I was almost home. I called Michael. I'm close. I'll be there in 2 hours. Mom, are you sure you want to do this? You could turn around. You could go somewhere else. I don't want you to get hurt. I'm not going to get hurt, Michael. I'm going to do what I should have done years ago. I'm going to stand up for myself. You promise you'll be okay? I promise. I pulled into the driveway at 3 p.m. The house was the same. Olivia's house. The house I'd paid for. The house I'd walked out of. The house I was about to walk back into. I parked. I got out. I walked to the front door. I didn't knock. I opened it. The living room was full. Olivia.
Mark.
The children. Michael, Rachel, even a few neighbors I'd known for years. They were all looking at me, all frozen, all waiting. Olivia stood up. Her face was red. Her eyes were angry. You're back. I'm back, I said. You think you can just waltz in here like nothing happened? I don't think anything, Olivia. I know exactly what happened. And I know exactly what's going to happen now. She looked at Mark. He stood up. His jaw was tight. Eleanor, we've been worried sick. You disappeared. You left your family. Stop, I said. Just stop. He stopped. You're not worried sick, Mark. You're worried about your access to my money. You're worried about the trust fund you designed. You're worried about the guardianship you filed.
You don't care about me.
You never have. The room was silent. The children were staring. The neighbors were shifting awkwardly. Olivia stepped forward. Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. We were trying to help you. You were trying to take everything from me. You said it yourself, Olivia. At the table, you said my money belongs to you. You didn't ask. You demanded. You told me I was old and useless, and the only thing I was good for was signing checks. That's not what Yes, it is. You meant every word. But you made a mistake. You thought I'd just go along with it. You thought I'd roll over. You've been telling yourself that story for so long. You actually believed it. Her voice got small.
Mom, please.
Not in front of the children. Your children need to hear this. Because they need to learn that you don't treat people like ATMs. You don't treat your mother like a bank. You don't take what isn't given. I looked at the neighbors. They were staring at the floor. They knew I was right. They'd seen it for years. They'd watched Olivia treat me like a servant. They'd never said anything, but they'd seen that I turned back to my daughter. I'm not dying, Olivia. I'm not old. I'm not confused. I'm a woman in her 60s with a car, a bank account, and a future. and you don't get to control any of it. I pulled out my phone. I dialed Harold. I put him on speaker. Hello, Harold's voice echoed in the room. Harold, I'm at Olivia's house. I'm here with the family. Good. And are you ready to proceed? I am. Then let me explain something to everyone present. I am Eleanor's attorney. She has instructed me to file a counterpetition against the guardianship petition filed by Mark and Olivia. She has also instructed me to initiate proceedings for a restraining order against both of them. And she has asked me to make it very clear that her assets will remain in her name, under her control, and no one else's. Olivia's face drained of color. Mark's hands were trembling. You can't do that, he said. The guardianship hasn't even been ruled on. You can't just... I can, Harold said. And I have. The papers are filed. The counterpetition is in. You and Olivia will be served within 48 hours. I clicked off the phone. I looked at my daughter. She was crying now. Not sad tears. Angry tears. Tears of a woman who thought she'd won and discovered she'd lost. Mom, you can't do this to me, she said. I'm your daughter. I'm your family. How could you? How could I repeated. How could I? You sat at your table and told me I was nothing. You told me my life was over. You told me my money was yours. You filed papers to have me declared incompetent. You posted about me online. You humiliated me to anyone who would listen. And now you're asking me how I could fight back. She was silent. I'm not your enemy, Olivia. I never was. But you made yourself mine. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I walked to the door. I turned back. The children are welcome to visit. They're welcome to spend time with me. But you and Mark are not. Not until you learn to treat me like a person. Not until you apologize. Not until you mean it. I walked to my car. I got in. I drove away. I went to my condo. The same condo. The one I thought I'd never see again. That I walked inside. It was just as I'd left it. The TV. The couch. The photos on the wall. My life. My things. My space. No one had taken it. No one had touched it. I sat on the couch. I looked at the photos. My wedding. Arthur's funeral. Michael's graduation. Olivia's first birthday. The children. All of them. All of these moments. All of these memories. They belonged to me. They were mine. And I was still here. The door closed behind me. I walked to my car. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I'd said what I needed to say. I'd done what I needed to do. The rest was up to them. That I drove to my condo. The building was quiet. The hallway smelled like someone's cooking. Chicken. Garlic. It smelled like home. I unlocked the door. I stepped inside. Everything was exactly where I'd left it. The magazines on the coffee table. The Afghan on the back of the couch. The photos on the wall. Arthur's face smiling at me from the mantel. I walked to the mantel. I picked up his photo. I held it for a moment. I did it, I said. I finally did it. I wish you could have seen it. The photo didn't answer. It never did. But somehow, I felt him. I felt his presence in the room. I felt his approval. I felt his love. Did I put the photo down? I walked to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator. It was empty except for a half-empty bottle of wine and some condiments. I'd left in a hurry. I hadn't planned to be gone so long. I hadn't planned to come back. But I was back. And I was different. The woman who left that house 3 weeks ago was not the same woman standing in this kitchen. That woman was afraid. This woman was not. That woman was silent. This woman had a voice. That woman gave everything away. This woman kept what was hers. That I made a list. I wrote down everything I needed to do. Call Harold. Check on Michael. Change the locks on the condo. Change the passwords on my bank accounts. Cancel the joint credit card. Olivia had a card on my account. I'd given it to her years ago. She used it for groceries. For gas. For emergencies. She'd called it helping. I'd called it helping too. But it wasn't helping.
It was subsidizing.
It was enabling. It was me paying for the privilege of being used. I called the bank. I canceled the card. The woman on the phone asked why. I said, because I no longer need to support my adult daughter.
She didn't argue.
She just processed the request. That I called Harold. He answered on the second ring. Eleanor, I heard you made quite the entrance today. I did. And I need to move fast. I need the restraining order. I need it filed today. It's already drafted. I'll have it filed by the end of business. But Eleanor, I need to warn you. Once we file this, it's going to escalate. She's going to fight back. She's going to be angry. She's going to try to paint you as the bad guy. Let her. I've been the bad guy before. I've been worse. I've been invisible. Are you ready for what comes next? The court case,
The testimony.
the public scrutiny. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. Good. I'll get the ball rolling. We hung up. I stood in the middle of my living room. I looked around. The furniture, the rug, the paintings, my mother's china cabinet, my grandmother's clock. All of it mine. All of it paid for with my money. All of it staying mine. I felt something I hadn't felt in decades.
Power.
Not power over anyone. Power over myself. Power to choose. Power to say yes. Power to say no. I sat on the couch. I picked up the remote. I turned on the TV. I found a documentary about whales. I watched it for an hour. I didn't care about whales. But I needed to be still. I needed to sit in my own space and just be. The phone rang at 7 p.m. It was Michael. Mom. It's done. They were served. Olivia got the papers an hour ago. She's been calling me nonstop. She's furious. She's saying you're destroying the family. Did she apologize? Did she say she was sorry? She didn't apologize. She just screamed. She said you were going to regret this. She said you were going to pay. She said. Michael, stop.
I don't need to hear what she said.
I know what she said. It's the same thing she's been saying for years. The only difference is now she's not getting what she wants. She's talking to a lawyer. She's going to fight it. Let her. I have a lawyer too. And I have the truth. She doesn't. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Mom, I'm proud of you. I know I've said that already. But I mean it. You stood up to her. You didn't back down. You did what I've never been able to do. Michael, you're a good man. You're a good son. But you've been afraid of her too.
We both have.
We've been afraid of her for a long time.
Yes, I have.
I've been afraid of her since we were kids.
She always had to win.
She always had to be right. She always had to have the last word. It was easier to let her. To just go along. That's what we did. We went along. We let her run things. We let her take things. We let her believe she was in charge. But she was never in charge, Michael. She was just louder. And we were too quiet to correct her. Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore. I hung up. I went to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of wine. The same wine I'd been drinking the night I left. It tasted different now. Sweeter. Better. Like victory. I sat at the kitchen table. I looked out the window. The city lights were starting to come on. The sky was turning purple. The world was still turning. The world hadn't stopped because I'd walked out of a Thanksgiving dinner. The world had kept going. And so had I. I thought about Olivia. I tried to understand her. I tried to see the world through her eyes. She'd been born with a certain expectation. That things would be given to her. That she was special. That she deserved more than other people. Had I taught her that? Had I given her too much? Had I failed to set boundaries? Had I made her believe that love meant giving her whatever she wanted? Maybe. Maybe I had. But I wasn't going to make that mistake again. Not with her. Not with anyone. I finished my wine. I went to bed. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks. The next morning, I woke up early. 6 a.m. I felt rested. I felt calm. I made coffee. I sat on the couch. I watched the sun rise over the city. My phone buzzed. It was Harold. Eleanor. I have news. Mark has filed a motion to dismiss the restraining order. He's claiming it's frivolous. He's claiming you have no basis to file it. Can he do that? He can try. But it won't work. I have documented evidence. I have the guardianship petition. I have the social media post. I have a witness list. I have your testimony. The judge will see it. And the judge will rule in your favor. When do we go to court? Next week. Thursday. 9 a.m. I want you there early. I want you to be ready. I want you to dress professionally. I want you to look him in the eye. And I want you to tell the truth. I've been telling the truth my whole life, Harold. The only difference is now I'm not apologizing for it. That's exactly what I want to hear. I hung up. I looked at the clock. 7 a.m. I had a week to prepare. A week to get my story straight. A week to make sure I didn't stumble, that I didn't need a week. I'd been preparing for this my whole life. I spent the next few days in quiet preparation. I made notes. I practiced what I would say. I wrote down key moments. The mortgage, the business loan, the tuition, the checks, the cosigns, the years of silence, the moment at the table, the words she said, the look on her face, all of it. I wrote it down. I memorized it. I owned it. I called Michael every day. He kept me updated on Olivia's mood. She was still furious. She was still threatening. She was still refusing to believe she'd done anything wrong. She says you're doing this to punish her, Michael said. She says you're being spiteful. She says you're trying to ruin her life. Her life is not ruined. Her life is exactly what she made it. I'm just not subsidizing it anymore. I told her that. She didn't listen. She never listens. She never has. She never will. That's not my problem anymore. The day before the hearing, I got a call from Rachel, Michael's wife. She rarely called me. We had a good relationship, but she was quiet. She kept to herself. I was surprised to see her name on my phone. Eleanor, it's Rachel. Rachel, is everything okay? Is Michael? Michael's fine. I'm not calling about him. I'm calling about me. I need to tell you something. What is it? Mark has been not good to me. He's been making comments. Nasty ones. About Michael. About our finances. About how we don't deserve anything. He's been trying to turn Michael against you. But Michael won't do it. So now Mark is turning on us. What do you mean? He's been calling my boss. Telling him I'm not reliable. He's been contacting our landlord. Telling him we're behind on rent. He's trying to hurt us. To hurt Michael. He wants to make an example of us. I felt the anger rise. Not a hot anger. A cold one. The kind that makes you think clearly. Rachel, I need you to document everything. Write down every conversation. Every text. Every call. Record the times and dates. We're going to need it. I've been doing that. I've been keeping a journal. I knew it would matter someday. Good. Bring it to court. Give it to Harold. He'll know what to do. She hesitated. Eleanor, I don't want to cause more trouble. I don't want to make things worse. You're not causing trouble, Rachel. You're defending yourself. You're defending your family. That's not trouble. That's standing up. And standing up is always the right thing. She was quiet. Then she said, "Thank you. I needed to hear that." I drove to court on Thursday morning. The courthouse was old. Brick. Marble steps. A fountain in the courtyard. I walked up the steps. I felt the weight of the moment. Harold met me at the entrance. He was wearing a suit. Gray. Professional. He looked confident, ready. We walked inside. The hallways were long. The floors were polished. The air was cool. We found the courtroom. Room 210. The door was open. I walked in. Olivia was already there. Mark beside her. A lawyer in a dark suit whispering to them. Olivia looked at me. Her face was hard. Her eyes were cold. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She just stared. I took my seat at the front table. Harold sat beside me. The room was small. A few benches. A few spectators. Michael was there. Rachel was there. A few neighbors. A few strangers. The judge walked in. He was older. Gray hair. Glasses. He had a calm, measured voice. He sat down. He read the papers. He looked at Olivia. He looked at me. "Miss Ellison, you filed for guardianship of your mother?" "Yes, Your Honor." Her voice was shaky. She was nervous. She wasn't used to being challenged. "And you, Mrs. Callahan, you filed a counterpetition and a restraining order?" "Yes, Your Honor." He leaned back in his chair. "This is an unusual situation. I'm going to hear both sides. I'm going to make a decision. And I want to make sure everyone understands that I don't take this lightly." Olivia's lawyer stood up. He was young.
Fierce.
He argued that I was a danger to myself, that I'd abandoned my family, that I was financially irresponsible, that I was unstable. Harold stood up. He was calm, measured. He presented the facts. The mortgage I'd co-signed, the business loan I'd given Mark, the tuition I'd paid, the years of support. He presented the guardianship petition. He presented the social media posts. He presented Rachel's journal. All of it laid out in clear, undeniable order. Then I took the stand. I sat in the witness chair. The judge looked at me. Mrs. Callahan, tell me why you left your daughter's Thanksgiving dinner. I looked at the judge. I looked at Olivia. I looked at the room. I left, I said, because she told me my money belonged to her. She told me I was old and alone and had nothing better to do with it. She told me I was useless. She told me my life was over. And she asked me to sign papers that would give her control of everything I have. And what did you do? I got up. I grabbed my bag. And I drove away. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't stay. I'd been staying my whole life. I'd been staying and giving and never saying no. And that day, I said no. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I turned to Olivia. I looked her in the eye. You are my daughter. I love you. I have always loved you. I have given you everything I had. I gave you my time. I gave you my energy. I gave you my money. And what I got in return was a demand.
You didn't ask.
You demanded. You told me I owed you. I don't owe you, Olivia. I never did. I gave you because I loved you. And love is not a debt. Love is a gift. And gifts are not taken. They are given. The room was silent. Olivia was crying. Not because she was sad. Because she was angry. Because she was embarrassed. Because I was right that the judge looked at Olivia. Ms. Ellison, do you have anything to say? She stood up. Her voice was cracking. She's my mother. I was just trying to help. I was just trying to protect her. I didn't mean, did you tell her her money belonged to you? I said it. But I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to. Did you file for guardianship without her consent?
Yes.
But did you post about her online? Mark did.
Not me.
I didn't. Did you know about it? She hesitated.
Yes.
But that's enough, the judge said. I've heard what I need to hear. He looked at the papers.
He looked at me.
He looked at Olivia. I'm denying the petition for guardianship. I'm granting the restraining order. Mrs. Callahan is competent. She is capable. She is in full control of her faculties. And she has every right to manage her own assets and make her own decisions. The petition is frivolous. It is dismissed with prejudice. Olivia's face went white. Mark slammed his hand on the table. The judge banged his gavel. Order. I will not have that in my courtroom. Mark stood up. His face was red. This is ridiculous. She's going to waste all her money. She's going to. Sit down, Mr. Ellison, or I'll have you removed.
Mark sat down.
He was shaking. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Callahan, the restraining order is permanent. They cannot contact you except through legal counsel. They cannot come within 500 feet of you. They cannot discuss this case publicly. If they violate the order, they will be held in contempt of court. Thank you, Your Honor. I got up. I walked out of the courtroom. I didn't look back. The hallway was bright. The sun was streaming through the windows. I walked to the entrance. Michael was waiting for me. He hugged me. Mom, it's over. It's finally over. It's over, I said. But it's just the beginning. I drove home. I sat in my condo. I looked around at my things, my life, my space, my choices. And I made another decision. I would be generous. I always had been. I would be kind. I always had been. But I would never be taken for granted again. I would never be invisible again. I would never be silent again. The courtroom doors swung shut behind me. I walked down the marble steps. The sun was warm on my face. November in Massachusetts could be cruel, but today it felt like forgiveness. Michael caught up to me. He was crying, not hiding it, just letting it run down his face. Mom, you did it. I did it, I said. We did it. He hugged me hard. I felt his shoulders shake. He'd been holding this in for years. The fear, the frustration, the helplessness. He'd watched me get trampled. He'd watched his sister take and take. He'd wanted to stop it. He never knew how. It's over, he said again. It's over, I agreed. But we're not done yet. I drove home. I parked in my spot. I walked up the stairs. I unlocked the door. I stood in the middle of my living room. The sunlight was streaming through the windows. The dust motes were dancing. The clock was ticking. The world was moving. I called Harold. He picked up on the first ring. You were magnificent in there. I was just honest. Honesty is a weapon, Eleanor.
You wielded it well.
The restraining order is in effect. The guardianship is dead. She can't contact you. She can't come near you. She can't file anything else without going through me. And the money, yours. All of it. The condo, the savings, the investments. She has no claim to any of it. She never did. She just made you think she did. I sat down on the couch. I looked at the photo on the mantel. Arthur. He was smiling. The same smile he'd worn on our wedding day. The same smile he'd worn the day Michael was born. The same smile he'd worn the day Olivia learned to walk. I wish she could have seen it. I said. He did, Harold said. He's been watching the whole time. I felt tears well up. Not the sad kind. The grateful kind. I wiped them away. I wasn't done being strong. Not today. Not ever. I spent the next few weeks getting my life in order. I changed the locks. I changed the passwords. I changed the beneficiaries on my accounts. Not because I didn't trust Michael. Because I trusted myself. I took control of everything. I felt the weight of my own life resting in my own hands. I talked to Michael every day. He was doing better. He'd started therapy. He'd started saying no. He'd started standing up for himself at work. He'd started living his own life instead of waiting for permission. I never realized how much I was shrinking, he told me one afternoon. I thought I was just being easygoing. I thought I was keeping the peace. But I wasn't keeping peace. I was giving it away. Me too, I said. I thought I was being generous. But I was just being used. Are you still generous? I'm still generous. But I'm generous on my terms. I give what I want. I give when I want. I give to who I want. And I never give out of fear. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'm learning how to do that too. I know you are. And I'm proud of you. I didn't hear from Olivia. The restraining order kept her away. She couldn't call. She couldn't text. She couldn't come to my condo. She couldn't send letters. She was cut off. I knew she was angry. I knew she was telling people I was vindictive. I knew she was rewriting the story in her head. But I didn't care. I'd told the truth. The truth was out there. The truth was on the record. And the truth was enough. Mark's business went under. Not because of me. Because of him. He'd been using his debt as an excuse for years. He'd been hiding behind it. He'd been using it to manipulate me. But without my money, the facade crumbled. The bank called in the loans. The clients left. The equipment was repossessed. I didn't gloat. I didn't even feel satisfied. I just felt neutral. Mark was his own worst enemy.
He always had been.
I just stopped defending him from himself. Olivia reached out through an intermediary. A mutual friend. She asked if I'd come to a mediation. She said she wanted to talk. She said she wanted to make things right. She said she wanted to apologize. I considered it. I really did. For a few days, I thought about going. I thought about giving her another chance. I thought about letting her back in. But then I remembered. I remembered the table. I remembered the words. I remembered the papers. I remembered the lies. I remembered the accusations. I remembered the public humiliation. I said no. I said, she can apologize through her lawyer. She can write a letter. She can do it in writing. But I'm not sitting in a room with her.
Not yet.
Maybe not ever. The friend relayed the message. Olivia didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. She wasn't used to being told no. She wasn't used to being put in her place. She wasn't used to seeing her mother as anything but a resource. I started doing things I'd always wanted to do. I took a cooking class. I'd always wanted to cook. I'd always been a good cook, but I'd never been a great one. I wanted to be great. I joined a hiking group. Women my age. We walked the trails together. We talked. We laughed. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about family. We talked about the world. We talked about the future. We talked about what we wanted to do next. I traveled. I went to the Grand Canyon again. This time with a friend. We took photos. We stayed in a lodge. We watched the sunset. We watched the sunrise. We ate breakfast on the rim. I took a million pictures. I didn't show them to anyone. They were for me. I went to Europe.
France.
Italy.
Spain.
I'd never been. Arthur had always wanted to go. We'd talked about it for years. We'd never made the trip. I made it for both of us. I drank wine in Tuscany. I ate pasta in Rome. I walked the beaches in Nice. I felt Arthur with me. I felt him everywhere. When I came home, I felt different. Not new. Just different. Like I'd been sanded down. Like I'd been polished. Like I'd been restored. Michael came over for dinner. He brought Rachel. They were both glowing. Rachel was pregnant. They'd been trying for years. They'd never told anyone. They'd been afraid it wouldn't happen. It happened. I was going to be a grandmother. A real one. Not a bank account. A grandmother. You're going to be amazing, I told Rachel. You're already an amazing mother. I've seen you with the kids. I've seen how you are. You're patient. You're kind. You're present. That's all a child needs. Rachel cried. She hugged me. She said, I never had a mother like you. My mother was cold. She was distant. She never hugged me. She never said she was proud of me. I've been so scared of being like her. You won't be, I said. You're nothing like her. You're already better. She cried harder. I held her. I felt the weight of her. The weight of her fear. The weight of her hope. I carried it. I carried it willingly. I started to think about Olivia. Not with anger. Not with sadness. With curiosity. I wondered if she was okay. I wondered if she was happy. I wondered if she'd learned anything. I wondered if she missed me that I didn't call her. I didn't reach out. The restraining order was still in effect. But I thought about her. I thought about the little girl who used to hold my hand. I thought about the teenager who used to talk to me about boys. I thought about the young woman who used to cry on my shoulder. She was still in there somewhere. Buried under the entitlement. Buried under the demands. Buried under the years of taking. But she was there. I knew she was. 6 months after the court date, I got a letter. It was from Olivia. Handwritten. The envelope had no return address. But I recognized her handwriting. The loops. The curls. The way she wrote her capital letters. I opened it. I read it. Mom. I know you don't want to hear from me. I know the restraining order says I can't contact you. I know I broke it by sending this. I'll accept the consequences, but I need to say something. Something I should have said a long time ago. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I said at dinner. I'm sorry for treating you like a bank account. I'm sorry for treating you like a burden. I'm sorry for making you feel like you were nothing. I'm sorry for trying to take your money. I'm sorry for trying to take your freedom. I'm sorry for trying to take your dignity. I'm sorry for everything. Everything.
I've been in therapy.
I've been in therapy for months. I've been trying to understand why I did what I did. And I think I know. I was afraid. I was afraid of losing you. I was afraid of you getting older. I was afraid of you dying. I was afraid of being alone. And instead of dealing with that fear, I tried to control you. I tried to control your money. I tried to control your life. I thought if I could control everything, I wouldn't have to be afraid, but I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. Control doesn't stop fear. It just makes it worse. It just makes you more afraid of losing control. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to let me back in. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know.
I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry. Did I love you, Mom? I always have. I just forgot how to show it, Olivia. I read the letter 3 times. I sat in the kitchen. I stared at the words. The handwriting was shaky. The ink was smudged in places. She'd been crying when she wrote it. I could tell that I didn't know what to feel. Anger. Sadness. Relief.
Love.
It all mixed together. It all swirled around. I called Michael. I read him the letter over the phone. Wow, he said. That's a lot. It is. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Are you going to respond? I don't know that either. Take your time, Mom. You don't owe her anything. Not a response. Not forgiveness. Not even acknowledgement. You can do what you want. I know. I'm just not sure what I want yet. I hung up. I went to the window. I looked out at the city. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and purple. The lights were starting to come on. I thought about the letter. I thought about the words. I thought about the fear she talked about. I knew that fear. I'd felt it myself. The fear of losing someone. The fear of being alone. The fear of the unknown. It was the same fear that had kept me silent for years. The same fear that had kept me giving and never saying no. That I didn't hate Olivia. I never did. I hated what she'd done. I hated how she'd made me feel. I hated the entitlement and the demands and the disregard. But I didn't hate her. And I didn't want to punish her forever. I wanted to move forward. I wanted to heal. I wanted to let go of the weight I'd been carrying. That I sat down. I wrote a reply. I kept it short. I kept it simple. Olivia, I got your letter. Thank you for writing it. I accept your apology. I've been waiting a long time to hear those words. I'm not ready to see you yet. I'm not sure when I will be. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm just living my life. And I hope you're living yours. I love you too, Mom. I sent the letter. I didn't know if it was the right thing. I didn't know if I'd regret it. But I knew it was honest. And honesty had become my compass. That I thought about what came next. I thought about the future. I thought about the rest of my life. I had money. I had health. I had family. I had friends. I had time. I had everything I needed. And I had myself. The one thing I'd been missing for years. That I started a new routine. I woke up early. I made coffee. I sat on the couch. I watched the sunrise. I read the paper. I went for walks. I saw friends. I went to museums. I went to the theater. I went to the movies. I did things I'd never done before. I did things I'd always wanted to do. I joined a book club. I was the oldest one there. I didn't care. I read books I'd never heard of. I talked about them with people half my age. I learned new words. I learned new ideas. I learned new ways of thinking. I started writing. A journal. I'd never kept one before. I wrote about my day. I wrote about my feelings. I wrote about Arthur. I wrote about Olivia. I wrote about Michael. I wrote about the future. I wrote about the past. I wrote about everything. Writing helped me. It helped me make sense of things. It helped me organize my thoughts. It helped me see patterns. It helped me see progress. I had a birthday. I turned 67. Michael threw me a party. A small one. A few friends. A few neighbors. A lot of laughter. He made a speech.
He talked about me.
He talked about the woman I used to be. He talked about the woman I'd become. He said, my mom used to be invisible. She used to be a shadow. She used to be someone who took up no space. But something changed. Something happened. And now she's the biggest presence in any room. She's not invisible anymore. She's impossible to ignore. Everyone clapped. I felt my face turn red. I felt tears in my eyes. I felt proud. Not of anything I'd done. Proud of who I'd become. I'd become someone who said no. I'd become someone who set boundaries. I'd become someone who chose herself for once. I'd become someone who refused to be a wallet. I stood up. I raised my glass. I said, to the rest of my life. The one I finally chose. Everyone cheered. I drank. I felt the warmth. I felt the love. I felt the freedom. I thought about the words I'd spoken in court. Love is not a debt. Love is a gift. And gifts are not taken. They are given. That was the truth. It had always been the truth. I'd just forgotten it. I'd buried it under years of obligation. I'd buried it under years of fear. I'd buried it under years of being someone else's solution, but I'd dug it up. I'd uncovered it. I'd held it in my hands. And now it was mine. Forever, the evening wound down. The guests left. Michael stayed behind. He helped me clean up. We washed the dishes. We put away the leftovers. We sat on the couch. Mom. Are you okay? I'm more than okay, Michael. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. What about Olivia? Are you ever going to see her? I don't know. Maybe.
Someday.
But not until I'm ready. And not until she's ready. We both have work to do. We both have healing to do. And we need to do it separately. At least for now. He nodded. He accepted that.
He always accepted things.
It was one of his best qualities. I'm proud of you, Mom.
I've been proud of you for a long time.
But I've never been prouder than I am right now. I hugged him. I held him close. I felt his heart beating. I felt his love. I felt my own love. I felt everything I'd been missing. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for being my son. Thank you for being my rock. Thank you for being my family. He stayed until midnight. We talked about everything and nothing. We laughed.
We cried.
We remembered. We planned. We dreamed that when he left, I stood at the door. I watched him walk to his car. I watched him drive away. I stood there for a long time. I looked at the sky. I looked at the stars. I looked at the moon. I thought about the road I'd driven. The road that had carried me across the country. The road that had carried me away from everything I knew. The road that had brought me back. I thought about the ocean, the waves, the salt, the freedom. I thought about the canyon,
the depth,
the color, the silence. I thought about the diners and the motels and the strangers who'd helped me along the way. I thought about the table, the dinner, the words, the moment I walked out, the moment I started living. And I thought about something I'd learned, something I'd never forget, something I'd tell the world. You are not what you give. You are what you keep. Because when you give away everything, you disappear. When you give away your money, you give away your choices. When you give away your time, you give away your life. When you give away your voice, you give away your soul. But when you keep what's yours, you become something. You become someone. You become visible. You become powerful. You become free. And freedom is the only thing that's ever worth fighting for. I closed the door. I locked it. I walked to my room. I looked at the photo of Arthur. I smiled. I did it. I said. I finally did it.
He smiled back.
He always did. And for once, I felt like I deserved it, because I wasn't a wallet anymore, I wasn't a burden anymore, I wasn't invisible anymore, I was me. And that was enough.